Student. Hello, students. Hope all is going well with you. We're coming to the end of week 2 and the beginning of week 3 for this particular course. And what I wanted to do is give you, and I know I've done this already, but I essentially want to give you the layout of where I am going with this whole course and where we are right now. The step-by-step process of the whole thing. And what I wanted to do is kind of look at where we are in week 2, but actually going to the point where the literature review and the problem statement and also conducting the interview all work in together. Now, as I said, you're not doing an extensive literature review, just some semblance of how you work your problem statement into the literature that you're going to research. Okay? So basically, what happens, just forgetting everything and starting from square one, what you are essentially doing, now just listen to this because it makes sense and it doesn't have you scrambling week to week. What you're essentially doing, number one, is you're not becoming a statistician. I know I've said this before. And you're not becoming a full-blown researcher. What you're essentially doing is learning the methodology of research. When you need to find something and you got to look into it, you want to improve it, whether it be at work or personal or at work. The thing is that you need to know and understand the process of doing that. Okay? So the thing is, I know I initially gave you the example of the washing machine, but I want to get into more of a general format of the process itself. A problem statement doesn't really have to be a problem. It could be a problem, but the problem statement is something you either need to know, need to improve, meaning fix it, or coming up with something really new that no one's ever done before, and usually that's probably not the one you're going to choose, but the idea is something that you think you can fix, that's what a problem statement is, but you haven't figured out how to fix it yet. Something you want to develop, but you haven't developed it yet. Something you want to change, but you haven't changed it yet. So having said that, the problem statement is really identifying what you want to do. All right? If you were looking at a business strategic plan, okay, the first thing is, say you wanted to start a new business. The first thing is you come out with a vision statement. What would I like to do? I have a vision that I want to open up a factory that is going to make windshield wipers on cars better than they ever could be. And these are my ideas. I haven't researched it yet. I haven't done it yet. I haven't looked at the literature that supports what I want to do. All I know is that's my vision. If you correlate that to a business plan, that vision would be your problem statement. Now, after your vision, you have a mission. That's how it is in every company. The mission supports the vision, but essentially what it does is it gives it structure. Okay? So the hypothetical statement that you set up is, I've got this vision to come up with these windshield wipers that no one's ever done before, okay? And I think that if I do this, I will accomplish this. I think if I come up with windshield wipers that have this type of elements in it, okay, whatever it is, whatever material, all right, then the outcome is going to be windshield wipers that instead of lasting 6 months will last a year. It's just my idea. That's my hypothetical that supports my problem. My vision is developing the windshield wipers. My hypothetical is if I do this to that, that's going to be the outcome in solving this particular problem. That isn't out there yet. Again, problem only by definition, but not literally a problem. It could be, but it isn't. Okay, so now you've got your hypotheses. Under that hypothesis, there's going to be 4 or 5 specific goals. But we haven't gotten to that yet. We haven't gotten to those 4 or 5 goals and developed them yet. You may have already written about it because they already had you do that. But the point of the matter is, based on the way these modules are set up, for week 2, the only thing that you were doing was you were developing a problem statement, and essentially, really what it is what you want to change, what you want to do, it's what your vision is. And then you're going to interviewing somebody and how to do this. Okay, what are their opinions on this? That's what they mean when they say in week number 2, the 4th learning objective is schedule and conduct an interview with someone who can help you with your problem statement. So that's basically what you did. If you know someone that can help you with that, develop it, buys into your idea, that problem statement then turns into your hypotheses. It's what you want to do, but what you think you can do to solve that hypothesis before you even do the research. But the research is going to be the work through one now, where we're getting into week 3. And week 3 is the research question itself. So they're saying, how do you solidify your research question? Well, the thing is, you're going to come up with 4 or 5 goals. Your research question can be answered in a series of breakdowns or subdivisions of the question. For example, if your hypothesis says, if you do this, this will be the outcome, then you want 4 or 5 hypothetical goals or sub-goals that will support that. For example, getting back to the windshield wipers. Okay, goal number 1 might be, if I use a synthetic rubber instead of what we're using now, this will be the outcome. Goal number 2 might be, I need to research how I'm going to get that rubber and where I might find it. Goal number 3 might be, what is the competition of other suppliers that might be producing this type of material? It's a whole bunch of stuff, but only you can come up with that. Then what they're saying is, when they're saying complete the literature review, it's going into each one of those questions that you ask to support that hypothesis, that support the research question, that support what the problem area is. And then what you do is now you come up with the research on the literature that will help you solve each one of those goals that support the hypotheses. In week number 4, looking ahead, what you're doing is you're doing what they call sampling and data collection. And that's where you get into some easy stats. Um, and, there are, when you read through your book, some of the stats that are going to be presented, but mostly in questionnaire form, they're going to be presented in the type of data that you're going to need. And that's what a research instrument is. So you might be looking at nominal data, ordinal data. You might even be doing some of your statistical analysis. And a lot of times, if you want specific data that's demographic driven, you would get into your literature review, would get into the Department of Labor and Statistics. You might want to look at some of the data because rather than doing the number crunching itself, the data is already up there that supports your particular hypotheses. Okay? For example, if you need sample populations, it's one of the learning objectives in week 4. They all support the research question. And basically, they will tell you how to develop a questionnaire, an instrument that you're going to use when you interview people and collect the data that you need that supports your literature review, that supports your hypotheses. So you've got your hypotheses, you've got the goals that support the hypotheses. Under each one of these goals, you have a sample questionnaire that you're going to pit against the literature review. And then when you get into week 5, you collect all the data, you look at all of the research, you do a comparative analysis of both, of each one of those goals. Okay? And when it talks about differentiating between qualitative and quantitative data, your qualitative data is basically opinions you might get from those that you're surveying from. A lot of times they do things that are based on experience, if you will. Quantitative data is based on hard facts, statistical research, data that might come from previous studies. So then when you get to week 6, you're going to put it all together and then you're going to come up with a draft of your final paper. Now, a draft of your final paper is going to be your problem statement, and I will tell you as each week goes by how we're going to do this. But I'm just going over the macro picture of what you're doing week to week so you can understand the process. And the final paper is going to have your hypotheses, which is your problem statement, all of the goals that support that hypothesis, all the different things you're trying to research. Each one of those goals is going to have a literature review and a questionnaire attached to the data. All right? From the data you found out in your surveys and your questionnaire, you compare it to the literature review, and you're going to come up with something substantive. Now, when you actually prepare the literature report, the final draft of it, you're going to get a takeaway, one major takeaway from each one of those objectives that support the hypotheses. Now, I'll make it easy for you. That takeaway becomes your summary statement. That's what you've concluded. That's everything that you've researched based on the literature review, based on the data that you've collected, and it's not more than, say, a page, page and a half. Then what you do is you compare your summary statement to your hypotheses, and that represents the quintessential summary of everything that you've researched. And you're going to say, I either prove or nullify my hypotheses. In other words, that's your conclusion, And you were either going to say what I thought originally when I went out to do my research is the same as what I thought based on my research. Or you're going to say, what I thought initially and what I've come up with at the end are two different things, and this is why. And then you have a reference sheet at the end of all the different sources that you pulled from. The paper is done. So it's really writing a paper step by step, week to week, but going through the process of each one of those. Developing the literature review, developing the sample instrument. The instrument, I mean that questionnaire that you put together of information you need on each one of the goals you come up with to support the hypotheses, and then summary and conclusion, and we're done. So that's kind of the overview of everything. So now, developing the problem statement, which you've done in week 2, and then interviewing someone to help you with that, is talk to someone else about what you want to do and report on that. That's all it is. But from that, you develop your hypothesis. So now getting into week 3, all right, you're developing, when they say the research question, they're saying, based on everybody that I've talked to, based on what I've come up with my hypotheses, that research question is going to peter down into 4 or 5 different goals that support the hypotheses. That's what is key here. All right? So that's what you're going to be doing in week 3. So reach out to me if you need help with this, because when they say construct an appropriate research question, what they're talking about is a research question is to really a hypothetical that is going to support the hypotheses, and how do we break it down into different components. That's what I want you to understand about this. Okay? That's it, guys and ladies. Have a wonderful week.